Police are still looking for the people responsible for a shooting in southern Kentucky. Tonight, we're learning more about what police believe may have led up to the shooting.
Coming up, we'll tell you about a highway construction plan in Nicholas and Bourbon counties expected to save drivers almost 15 minutes of drive time.
Real or fake? How can you tell? Some important advice to consider the next time you go shopping online.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon. The coroner is investigating a death on the University of Kentucky campus.
Lexington firefighters say they found a person dead this afternoon on the roof of a building on South Limestone. The coroner has not released the person's name or how they died, but he says he does not suspect foul play. We'll have the latest from the scene coming up on WKYT News at 6.
In another story that we're tracking, there are still a lot of questions about a shooting at a southern Kentucky hotel this weekend. 2 people were shot outside America's Best Value Inn in Somerset on Saturday night.
So far, no arrests have been made for the shootings. Police tell us they want to know if motorcycle groups or even gangs were responsible. Phil Pendleton has the latest in our top story at 5:30.
Police say they showed up within 2 minutes of the first 911 call Saturday night.
Chaotic is probably a very good description of what was going on.
Motorcycle riders rode into the Somerset Hotel parking lot, and those that were there were told that something bad was about to happen.
And instructed a number of people who were standing outside to get inside. At the same time, they drew guns and began shooting at other people in the parking lot.
Other than an apparent argument of some kind, police say they can't say exactly what the motive was or if there were clubs or even gangs involved.
2 people that suffered gunshot wounds to their lower extremities and were airlifted out.
Both of them, 26-year-old James Martin of Somerset and 69-year-old Johnny Wardrop of Tateville, were released from UK Hospital Monday. Christopher McCracken of Nashville was arrested on a carrying of concealed weapon and tampering with physical evidence charges, but he made bond Sunday morning.
But unfortunately, in the 2 minutes that it took for the officers to respond, a lot transpired in that amount of time and several people got away.
Police say they have recovered a number of handguns and bullet casings from multiple rounds that were fired.
I think several of them were on the phone with dispatchers actually when the shots first rang out.
Police say they believe some of the riders were carrying guns legally, but that others were carrying them illegally. In Pulaski County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Police say they did activate the Major Crimes Task Force, and they're getting help from both the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office and Kentucky State Police with the investigation.
We are learning some new details tonight about a man shot and killed by police in Louisville over the weekend. A surveillance camera outside a business shows Officer Nathan Blanford approaching the suspect, Ding Menyun, Saturday afternoon. Then moments later, Menyun is seen swinging a flagpole towards that officer. The officer fires shots. Louisville's police chief says that Menyun was a suspect in connection to an assault that happened earlier Saturday. He also says there could have been a language barrier between the two.
I have not reached any conclusions about whether or not this use of force was justified. I can look at the video and based on my 35 years of experience as a police officer, form some opinions, but this investigation has got to be completed.
Menyun later died at the hospital. Police say that in the past he has been found guilty of disorderly conduct, public intoxication, resisting arrest, and wanton endangerment. In 2013, he was found guilty of attempted assault on an officer.
The search continues tonight for a woman missing at Cumberland Falls. Our county-by-county coverage at 5:30 begins in McCreary County. The 24-year-old woman was reported missing Saturday night near Eagle Falls at Cumberland Falls State Resort Park. Police say she was with 2 other people when she disappeared. Search teams say a strong undercurrent and debris in the water are forcing divers to search a large area. In Jackson County, deputies believe drinking led to a man shooting his wife. It happened yesterday in the Greyhawk community. Deputies say Douglas Hurst fired a gun in the direction of his wife Jackie, and the bullet ricocheted and hit her in the right hip. Deputies say she has critical injuries. Her husband has been charged with wanton endangerment. In Hardin County, jurors find a man responsible for killing a teenager last year. Michael Todd Hilton was found guilty of murder, assault, and DUI in the death of Elizabethtown High School graduate Breonna Taylor. Police say Hilton was drunk when he ran a stop sign and crashed into a car Taylor was driving. She died at the scene. Her passenger was seriously injured.
Scattered showers and storms continue to move across the bluegrass this afternoon, making it feel pretty tropical out there. Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey has an early look at the tropical forecast.
Can you point me toward the beach? That's all I'm asking. It's really the only thing that is lacking with the atmosphere that we have across the bluegrass, Aiden. We've had it for several days. We're going to have it for several more days. A little look outside with temperatures upper 80s to around 90 degrees into much of central and eastern Kentucky. Very typical of a little steamy spell in summertime around here. It's basically what you get. This time, though, we got a little more humidity, so it feels even hotter than it actually is. Feels like 92 degrees right now into Lexington and London. Live First Alert Defender, we've had some showers and storms on and off all day long. Raindrop or two on top of Flemingsburg, Vanceburg. Out and out thunderstorm now impacting parts of West Liberty here into Morgan County. That made its way out of Menifee County. Bluegrass region, two little showers that we're tracking. One to the east of Nicholasville, one basically right on top of Versailles. Both of those are in the process of dissipating the farther northeast that we get. A little bit of drier air out across western Kentucky. That's why temperatures here are a little hotter, but some showers and storms gearing back up to our west. Weather headlines, few storms around. Tropical weather continues to kick on in, and we're tracking the potential for some heavy rains later this week when I come back in a few minutes.
Thanks, Chris. It's expected to help drivers cut down on drive time. Crews will soon start working on a new bypass in Bourbon and Nicholas counties.
The Millersburg bypass will go around the city of Millersburg, but not everyone is excited about the project. New at 5:30, Mike Linden is talking to people forced to move because of the construction.
Drivers in Nicholas and Bourbon counties can expect to spend less time in traffic near Millersburg.
It's going to be easier to travel. It's going to be a lot safer. It's going to be a lot wider. It's going to have emergency lanes to pull off into, and it should help traffic flow tremendously.
Pryor says by 2017, the Millersburg bypass in Bourbon and Nicholas counties will open to drivers.
But the new structure will go all the way around Millersburg to the north, come back in, and it'll tie into the part of the road that's pretty much near completion right now, right in this area.
Pryor says that builders should have US 68 finished by this September. And once the Millersburg bypass is completed, drivers can expect to save anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes of drive time between Bourbon and Nicholas counties.
Construction of the bypass will force some people to move. While she didn't want to appear on camera, Letitia Ann Hammond says she feels the bypass developers aren't giving her a fair deal for her property.
I do not intend to stand in their way. I don't want to make money on them. All I want is enough to replace what they're taking.
Despite some hurdles from property owners, Nicholas County officials say the bypass in the long term should benefit the county.
The city and the county governments here are working greatly together, and there's going to be a very significant change here in the near future, and it's going to be a positive change, but it's not going to change the complexion of our community. It's going to look the same.
In Nicholas County, Mike Linden, WKYT.
The almost $11 million project only accounts for 2 driving lanes, but could expand to 4 in the future.
A new bill promises to help Kentucky parents sort through the long list of child care options available to them. Today, Governor Steve Beshear signed House Bill 234. The measure institutes a new 5-star rating system for early care and education programs. The governor says the system that he calls Kentucky All-Stars will help parents find the best services for their children.
But with the passage of House Bill 234, every parent in Kentucky can now be confident in the early learning and child care choices that they make. And we can all be assured that the future of the Commonwealth will be in good hands.
Right now, only licensed child care services take part in the All-Stars system. The legislation expands it to include all school-based and private programs receiving public funding. All-Star ratings will be based on instructional quality, administrative practices, staff qualifications, and family and community engagement.
It's always tempting getting a good deal online for what would normally be pricey designer items. There are con artists trolling the web with one goal in mind: to lure you in and rip you off.
Chanel, Coach, Juicy, Louis Vuitton. They're all available for the right price on Craigslist, but are they the real deal? That's the question at the heart of a scheme run by Raylene Briley. Postal Inspector Colin Spence noticed several online complaints linked to Briley's Craigslist account, so he reached out to victims.
They thought they were buying authentic handbags, when in fact they turned out to be counterfeits, and then when they tried to return them or tried to contact the person that sold them to them, they couldn't.
With the help of one victim, postal inspectors set up a sting operation to buy a Louis Vuitton bag. When inspectors received the bag, they sent it to Louis Vuitton in New York. The company confirmed the purse was a fake. The complaints against Briley involved almost $20,000 worth of merchandise. So, how are you supposed to know if you're buying the real thing?
That's kind of the tricky part about it, is that you'd have to be really familiar with kind of the bags and what an authentic bag looks like, because obviously the copies are very high quality. You know, it's the stitching, it's the color of the stitching itself, it's the patina to the leather.
Briley was charged with trademark infringement and ordered to pay restitution to all those victims.
Follow WKYT online at WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
Kentucky Senator and presidential candidate Rand Paul trying to drum up support in Lexington, but not Lexington, Kentucky.
And the governor and first lady are packing their bags for England. Bill Bryant tells us what the Beshears plan to do overseas in the bottom line.
Good evening. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul was in Lexington today. That is Lexington, South Carolina. The presidential candidate is trying to shore up support in the early primary state where he is under heavy criticism from fellow Republican presidential contender Lindsey Graham. Graham said on network TV over the weekend that any of the Republican candidates would be better as president than Democrat Hillary Clinton, except for Rand Paul. Paul's trip to the Palmetto State comes as the Republicans got their 11th major White House candidate today. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush entered the race determined to take advantage of his family name, but trying to convince voters that he is his own man. Governor Steve Beshear and First Lady Jane Beshear are headed to England this week to promote Kentucky tourism. Tourism and Heritage Secretary Bob Stewart also making the trip. He says the United Kingdom sends more travelers to Kentucky from overseas than any other country. He says his trip is an effort to further expand that market. Tourism is at an all-time high for Kentucky right now, bringing in an estimated $13.1 billion a year. There's a complete interview with Secretary Stewart available on demand at KentuckyNewsmakers.com. Former Lexington Herald leader editor John Carroll is being remembered as a remarkable newsman. He's there on the left side of your screen. Carroll died over the weekend of a rare neurological illness. He led newsrooms that won several Pulitzer Prizes, including the Lexington Herald Leader, the Baltimore Sun, and the Los Angeles Times. John Carroll was 73. A memorial will be held next week in Lexington. And Model Laboratory School on the campus of EKU racking up some awards. A research site called Niche ranks Model the third best high school in the state, behind Manual in Louisville and Highlands in Fort Thomas. With just 225 students in its high school, Newsweek has ranked Model among the top 1% of high schools in the country. Bill Bryant, WKYT.
A Medal of Honor recipient from Kentucky will have his awards on display at the Smithsonian.
William Perkins was 20 years old when he was killed during the Vietnam War. He is the only combat photographer to ever receive the Medal of Honor. Perkins' mother, Mary Jacobson, believes this is a touching way to keep her son's memory alive.
I really thought it would be such an honor that he really belonged there, because I didn't want him to end up in somebody's basement in a cardboard box.
Jacobson tells us that her son's awards, photographs, and letters will be on display at the Smithsonian.
Now.